What's up, guys? We're going to be talking about variables in CSS. Just a quick disclaimer, the correct term is actually custom properties in CSS, but we're going to be using the term variables. So we have a very simple page. There's nothing overly wrong with this page. We have a H1, a H2, and a paragraph. They all have the styling color dark blue. We also have an outer container with two inner containers. So the outer container has a 1 pixel red border, whereas the two inner containers have a solid 1 pixel green border. Now let's decide we're not happy with our theming and we want to change the color of the text. So at the moment, we would actually have to go through and change all three of these values to a new value. Now that's really not a lot of work, but just imagine instead of a few items, we actually had quite a number of items that were making use of this dark blue color, and we needed to change all of them to a different color. Now it's quite a bit more work. So is there a way that we can retain flexibility and be able to change the theme at a moment's notice? And the answer is yes, it's by making use of CSS variables or custom properties, as we mentioned. Now by default, these variables will be scoped to the element that they are defined on. So what we do is you make use of this root pseudo class, and now it essentially means that our variables will have a global scope, so we can use them on any of our CSS rules. So let's create a variable. So we'll define this with two horizontal dashes. We'll then provide the name of the variable, so we'll call it main text color, and we'll set it to dark blue. Now we have a defined variable, and in order to use this variable as part of a CSS rule, we make use of the var function in CSS. So I'll select all three of these rules at the same time. We'll type var, and then inside the brackets, we'll type the name of our custom variable, main text color. Now if we save and refresh, we'll see everything stays blue. Let's say at some point in the future we want to change the theme, we can just change the value of our custom variable, and we've changed the theme of the entire document. Now let's take a look at our two containers. So we have the outer container, which has a height of 200 pixels and a width of 400 pixels. And we have the two inner containers, and they have a height of 99 pixels each. And that's to take up half of the space. And the reason why it's 99, not 100, is because they have a 1 pixel border. So they're taking up half of the available height. Now, naturally, if we were to change the height of our outer container, let's set it to 400 pixels. Well, now our inner containers are not taking up the full width of the div. Now, this is a little bit of a contrived example because I'm sure we could just do something like height 50% on the inner containers, and that would probably solve the problem. But let's solve this problem in a different way just so we can make use of custom properties or variables. Firstly, let's set the height of 200 pixels as a variable. So we'll say container height, and we'll specify 200 pixels. Now for the outer container, instead of 200 pixels, we'll specify variable, and we'll pass in the container height variable. Let's refresh. We now have a 200 pixel high red container. Now for the inner containers, we'll make use of a new CSS function, which is calc. And calc allows us to input mathematical expressions, and it will output the correct result. So in this case, the expression is the container height divided by 2, so it takes up half of the container height, then minus 1 pixel because of the border. So let's start by referencing container height. We'll divide that by 2, we'll minus 1 pixel, and we'll just wrap the first part of that expression in brackets. Let's of course remember our trailing semicolon. Let's refresh, and absolutely nothing changes, which is what we wanted. So what this allows us to do is sometime in the future, if we decide actually we want this main container height to be larger, we can specify 400 pixels, and the height of those inner containers is going to be automatically adjusted based on that new container height variable. Now, as we mentioned, there are probably easier ways of achieving the same result, but it should give you an idea regarding the power of CSS variables or custom properties and when we might think about using them. Thanks very much for watching. Catch you in the next part of the course.